I don't really blame Indian CEO and chairman uncles. In their boardrooms, in their offices, in their factories, they're treated like gods. No one contradicts them, no one makes direct eye contact, everyone laughs at their jokes. There's a constant circumference of senior managers around them, always available to massage their egos. News anchors, journalists, podcasters all ask them questions so delicately, so grovelingly, cracking so many stupid one-liners in between, as if they are honored to be in their presence.
70-hour weeks?
Don't get me in trouble. Okay.
Okay. I thought I'd try.
And so, these CEOs often get so used to this God complex that they start mistaking themselves to be gods. As if the rest of India is also as much in awe of them as this small circle surrounding them. And this overconfidence in themselves is ultimately what leads to mega PR disasters. Case in point, Larsen & Toubro's chairman, S.N. Subrahmanyan, who, when recently asked by one of his employees in something that looked like a town hall as to why they're made to work on Saturdays, where he replied,
I regret I'm not able to make you work on Sundays, to be honest. If I can make you work on Sundays, I'll be more happier, because I work on Sundays also. What do you do sitting at home? How long can you stare at your wives? How long can the wife stare at your husband?
Now, someone recorded this, put this on Reddit, and social media erupted in outrage. And most of the arguments are understandably emotive. Isn't mental health important? Why should it matter how many minutes or hours I stare at my wife or anyone else's wife or do anything I want to do? Why is it not okay for me to have a life outside work? Which are all very valid points. But what I found interesting was the official clarification that L&T brought out the next day. It went something to the tune of L&T is really interested in nation building. It's at the core of our mandate. We believe this is India's decade. It demands collective dedication. And the chairman's remarks reflects this larger ambition. And by the way, this nationalism angle, this notion that India is not becoming developed because you are not going to office on a Sunday, seems to be a popular argument used by a lot of these corporate honchos. The L&T chairman mentioned this in his rant that Chinese workers evidently work 90 hours a week. If you want to be on the top of the world, you too have to work for 90 hours a week. Narayana Murthy also makes this nationalism argument. He says, look at post-World War II Japan or Germany. Look how hard they worked. There's no way we can beat China if we don't work long enough. And the point is, no one seems to be too outraged with this logic. And I'm guessing that's because at some level, people may be lulled into thinking that these guys may have a point. But they sadly don't. This is what I like to call the toxic trifecta. First, you do or say something toxic. Two, when called out, you use toxic nationalism to save yourself. And three, you use half-baked toxic economics to explain yourself. It's like the L&T chairman is saying, don't work 90 hours a week for me, but do it for your country. And so to all these CEOs using this toxic trifecta, I only have two words for you: labor productivity. In simple terms, what it means is that it doesn't matter how many hours a worker spends at office. It is the productivity of the worker, the quality of his work that matters. And actually, economists have a way to measure this. Hello and welcome to The Bond Economist, your one-stop destination for professional advice on the economy. My name is Auradeep Nandi, and today we answer a simple question. This rationale that Indian CEOs seem to be sold on, that work hard for the national good, does this really make economic sense? If Indian workers indeed work for 70, 80, 90 hours a week, will it do the trick in beating China? As always, if you like this kind of content, please hit like and subscribe. And if you'd like to contribute, feel free to hover your phone over this QR code or use the super thanks button below. First things first, why are CEOs wrong to focus on the number of hours worked? Labor productivity is exactly what it sounds like. How productive is your workforce? It's the amount of output generated per worker. The International Labour Organization, ILO, compiles the statistics across countries. At the top, you have countries like Singapore, US, France, Germany, where an average worker is generating nearly $70 to $75 worth of GDP in 1 hour. Workers in Middle Eastern countries like Saudi Arabia, Qatar, some of the Eastern European countries generate around $40 to $45 per hour. Korea and Japan are at $42. China is at $15. So where is India in all of this? In India, the average worker is estimated to generate only $8 worth of GDP per hour. This puts us at 133rd rank globally out of around 190 countries. It seems that the Indian worker is one of the least productive in the world. So if labor productivity is low, making a worker go from 60 hours to 70 hours to 90 hours a week will not make India a superpower, because the output per worker generated per hour is so less to start with. The question you should be asking is not why aren't Indians working for longer hours, but why are they so unproductive by global standards to begin with? And the more curious thing is that India is actually one of the world's largest exporters of labor. We have such a large Indian diaspora across the world. Indians are a sizable part of the workforce of all these developed countries that have high levels of labor productivity. So if the same Indian is capable of great productivity abroad, then what's wrong with Indians in India? Well, part of the answer is the way India's workforce is structured. Our regular formal workforce is only around 22% of the total. The remaining majority is either self-employed or casual laborers, or the worst of the lot, what the government calls helpers in household enterprises, which is basically people working literally for free in their small family businesses. By the way, many countries actually don't even count this category in their workforce numbers, but India is okay calling them employed. So with nearly 80% of the workforce in the informal sector, it's kind of difficult to have world-class productivity. A little less than 50% of our workforce is still in agriculture, which is arguably the least productive part of our economy. The next best option for most workers is moving to construction, which also has low productivity. In fact, have a look at this chart. This has the labor productivity of various sectors in the Indian economy on the x-axis and the share of workforce in those sectors on the y-axis. This is based on RBI data. For those of you interested, this is part of their CLEMS database. So at the extreme top left, you have agriculture. Very low productivity, which is why it's pushed to the extreme left on the x-axis, but very high share of the workforce, which pushes it high on the y-axis. Low-skilled services, sectors like trade, transport, hotels also have a similar problem. Low productivity, but a high share of the workforce trapped in it. Construction, again, low productivity and a sizable share of the workforce, considering this is just one sector. But take manufacturing, for instance. Higher productivity, but the share of workforce is actually quite low. By the way, the high productivity in manufacturing is only there thanks to a few very specific industries like petroleum refining, chemicals, transport equipments, etc. For the majority of other industries, productivity is actually quite bad. And finally, consider high-skilled services, finance, business services, communications, IT, the sector that typically contributes the most to the 6-7% growth that we associate with in India, sectors with high labor productivity. And these sectors have the lowest share of workers in the lot. So ideally, this chart should have dots going up. Sectors should have higher labor productivity and those sectors should attract more workers. But it's the reverse for India, which suggests that there is something more fundamental going wrong with our economy. At the heart of this problem is the fact that the levels of skills and education in India is nowhere near the quality that companies need. So lakhs and lakhs of people have all kinds of degrees today that aren't worth the paper on which they are printed on. Hiring managers in most companies will tell you that once you cross the top 10 or 15 colleges in India, the quality of the candidate pool gets really bad. And all these CEOs getting wet dreams about China, please understand that China's basic education coverage, their focus on vocational training, especially for high-tech industries, and their level of higher education is far, far better than India. For instance, in the 2025 QS World University Rankings, China's Peking University ranks 14th globally. Tsinghua University ranks 20th. Above University of Chicago, above Princeton, above Yale. You know where India debuts in this list? Where India's top universities start featuring in global league tables? IIT Bombay, India's top ranked institute, comes at 118th rank globally. It is followed by IIT Delhi at rank 150. Indian Institute of Science, 211th rank. Our top 3 universities rank in the 100 to 200 range, while China's top universities are in the top 20 globally. If this is the state with the top colleges, you can get a sense of how much the Indian education and sales system lacks in global competitiveness. So where will the labor productivity come from? Add to this poor health and nutrition levels in India, add to this low female workforce participation, add to this issues like caste-based discrimination, regional disparities, and add to this terrible infrastructure and urbanization levels. How can you expect your workforce to be productive if they are stuck all the time in traffic, or jam-packed in subhuman conditions in local trains, or breathing air that feels like the city is in one large gas chamber? Labor also can't be productive when there is lack of social security and adequate protection from unfair practices. Productivity dies when red tape and corruption strangles entrepreneurs in India. In the program Shark Tank, recently one of the participants alleged that he is unable to obtain a factory license unless he pays a bribe of 1 lakh rupees. This is when India boasts of Make in India and how easy it is to do business here. After this became viral, a senior official from the Ministry of Commerce contacted the participant. But most of us know that this is life as usual here. Pay bribes to ensure that the local administration is off your back, or to secure lucrative contracts, and keep a low profile, lest suddenly you get GST and income tax officers banging on your door. Some months back, a semiconductor startup founder tweeted that Bihar is the land of frustration, complaining that he has been following up for 4 years to get authorities to build roads, to get street lights, to lay down the other infrastructure that is needed for his company to operate there, but of no avail. By the way, this is exactly the kind of high-tech companies and sectors states say they want to welcome. In fact, when this guy was threatened by a local gangster, the police evidently were of no help. It is only after this went viral that the local district magistrate tweeted that they will start working on the road construction shortly. So this is the environment in which we are expecting our workforce to be as productive as China's. But all these motor-mouth CEOs and chairmen will never talk about these issues while talking of nation building, because then directly or indirectly they will be blaming the government and the administration, and none of them have the guts to have those difficult conversations. But it's not just about national issues. Labor productivity also comes down to company level practices. Sometimes the ability of a worker to generate more output depends on how much technology and investment you're ready to offer the worker. It's often about how well you address workers' complaints, how ready you are to defend their rights, about how you train your managers, how they communicate with the team, and how you define the success of your team. Management matters immensely. For instance, I was once watching an interview of Rajiv Bajaj, who runs the Bajaj Group, and he mentioned how he set up a recreation center in his office with sports, gym, rock climbing, whatnot. And employees are allowed to go anytime in the day. It's open all day.
And I've been saying to everyone, use it even during working hours. Go there, do something for half an hour, get a shower and get back to work. But you will never see, you will see lots of people there before 8 o'clock and after 5 o'clock, but you will not see more than half a dozen people there during working hours. There is still a cultural problem in Bajaj Auto.
Indian companies often end up caring less about the outcome and more about how easy or hard it looks to achieve that outcome. In a lot of these large companies, especially for desk jobs, you will have witnessed either yourself or you would have heard someone talk about this. It's often usual to see people saunter in late, waste half the day tapping out a few pointless emails, gossiping around, going for chai and sutta breaks, having a longish lunch break, taking out some time to butter up the boss. At 5 in the evening, the same boss will have a brainwave to call for a team meeting, not caring what that might mean for people's work-life balance. Any person who's seen to leave early is given the same look that vamp bahus give in Hindi serials whenever something dramatic happens. So the real work often starts in the evening, and then people send emails to each other at night, marking everyone else, trying to show how late they have worked and how hardworking they are. And because of this toxic work culture, every now and then you will see these videos becoming viral of senior managers of reputed companies abusing their teams left, right and center on Zoom calls, demanding impossible targets and telling them to work through weekends.
अरे भाड़ में जाए तेरा फैमिली मेरा क्या आता है भाई? अगर बैंक ने नौकरी दिया काम करने के लिए, फैमिली लेके घूमने के लिए दिया क्या? I don't care about your family. I have also family. I am not taking care of your family. The thing is that अगर आप लोग नहीं करोगे तो फिर सकड़ सकड़ मजबूर करना पड़ेगा ना. आप लोग प्रेशर नहीं दोगे तो कोई नहीं करेगा.
You know, I've had the great fortune of having really good bosses in my career so far. And one of them told me on my first day that I expect you to leave office by 5:30 or 6 p.m. If you consistently leave late, I will not consider it a sign that you're working hard. I'll consider it a sign that you are inefficient. Because you are unable to do the work in the time that it is meant to be done in. And trust me, that put more pressure because I was then forced to think how to optimize my productivity. And by the way, in all of this, pay also matters. The average fresher from the average engineering college joins mass recruiting tech firms still at around 4 to 5 lakh rupees annually, a level that has hardly grown in the last 5 years. Meanwhile, 100 rupees 5 years back is probably worth 75 rupees now. Meanwhile, in the same tech companies, CEOs have seen a 160% increase in their salaries in the last 5 years. This year, in fact, companies have spent so less on salary increments of their employees that it has become one of the reasons behind weak urban consumption growth in India. The government's chief economic advisor is publicly criticizing companies, saying that, look, your profits are so high, why have you kept your salaries near stagnant? And so here's my message to all the older CEOs and chairmen out there. If you are feeling the need to call in your employees to office on a Saturday and then wishing you could have had them also on a Sunday, then it is a sign of your poor leadership that the work that should have been done in 5 days is taking 6 or 7 days to get done. It is a sign that productivity is low in your company, and as a leader, you have failed to fix the problem. And if it is the case that you are not worried about outcomes and efficiency, and you just want the satisfaction of seeing your employees fill up your offices all day, then you are no different from those college professors who force students to attend classes by taking attendance and by penalizing absence, but never stopping to wonder that, how bad am I in teaching that I need to find ways to get disinterested students to forcibly come to my class. And please, the next time you feel like using the whole nation building argument, how about instead declaring a mid-year bonus? Give an additional day off for all your employees. Trust me, the boost to the economy that will come from them going out of their houses and spending that extra money will add more to India's consumption GDP than them spending 10 more hours at your office. For more such insights, like, share, and subscribe to The Bond Economist.